I know this seems really complex, but it's actually something that you can definitely do. I don't even care what your skill level is at. You have the ability to practice enough to do something like this. And today I'm going to show you one of the best exercises that I know so that you can have the dexterity to finger drum patterns like these. Not only that, but I'm also going to break down the psychology of how to do deliberate practice so that you can build skills to this kind of level in any type of domain or medium or practice. That sounds cool? Let's take it out. We're going to start off with a really basic exercise and we're going to build from there. So if this feels way too simple or rudimentary for you, go ahead and jump forward to some of the later exercises. But it's worth starting here so that you have a really solid foundation. This is a 16th note pattern exercise. If you're not sure how to count 16th notes, go ahead and give that a quick Google 16th note counting. And there's tons of resources out there that will break it down for you. But the exercise starts with a check. So it's just a whole bar of 16th notes with natural sticking. That means you're going back and forth, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left. Then you're going to remove the so you're only playing one E and. Then you get back into the check. Next, we'll remove the and. In this case, your left hand will stay consistent. Keep the left hand going. Now we're back to another right hand consistent where we remove the E, so it's one and up. And finally, we're going to do the last pattern where we remove the downbeat. Once you've played through all the patterns, you're going to just cut each pattern in half and take out the check. And then at the very end, you're going to do one of each of these patterns, all back to back. Again, the goal is to have it consistent throughout. It really helps to have a sense of a float when you're having these rests. Whether it's just a finger floating or your whole hand floating, doesn't really matter. This is what we call deliberate practice. What you need to do is find a goal. Our goal in this case is to play this exercise without any mistakes, in time to a clock or a metronome. You also need to pay full attention. I know I'm really distracting right now because I'm talking to you and there's music playing and we got a whole sludge video thing going on. But once you wrap your head around the exercise here, turn this video off, turn a metronome on, and fully participate in the exercise. You have to have full concentration. In order to do successful deliberate practice, you also need to have feedback, like direct feedback that lets you know how well you're doing. A few ways you can do that is by playing with a metronome. You can hear if you're with the click or not. So if you're out of time, that's feedback that lets you know you're rushing or dragging. You can also get the feedback in your hands. If it feels really uncomfortable or you actually can't play the thing yet, that's feedback that you either need to slow down or maybe speed up just a smidge or take a smaller chunk. Once you get comfortable with that, then you build on it. Let's break this down to a single hand. I like to use my middle finger as my right hand. So in this case, instead of going right, left, right, left, right, left, I go left, right, left, right, left, right, with my middle finger as my right hand, in a sense. But you can do it whatever way floats your boat. What we're really going for is the dexterity of going back and forth consistently. I'm showing you step by step how to play this stuff, but you have to want to play this, right? All these steps will transfer to any other type of music or any other type of art form or any other type of skill. If you've got the goals, you've got the challenge zones that you're finding, you've got the concentration, you got to have the intrinsic motivation. Once you have that, you know what you want to do, it's super easy to figure out how to get there. Do the same thing with your right hand. Again, I use my middle finger as my right finger. So it's... I'm doing all of these exercises at 90 BPM. I think it's really nice pace. It's not too fast, not too slow. If you're really struggling to hit this tempo, feel free to slow it down. When it comes to drumming and articulation, really slow can actually sometimes be more difficult. So find a comfortable sweet spot. Eventually, you'll want to turn up the tempo and get a little bit faster, But the goal is finding your comfort zone and getting just outside of that. Remember, if this tempo is too fast for you, feel free to slow it down. And if it's too slow, feel free to speed it up. You're finding the sweet spot right outside your challenge zone. Eventually, we're going to learn how to improvise and freestyle these kind of things. But in this case, we're doing deliberate practice, which means we're trying to push our skill beyond where it's at. In order to do that, you need to figure out where your limits are and then practice just at that limit until you can build up individual skills. So in this exercise, you're building up the skill of playing these 16th note partials. So if any of these patterns are really difficult for you, that's the goal. That's what we're working on. Now, if we want to get really musical with it, you're going to want to add dynamics. In this case, I'm going to be using my left hand, and I'm going to crescendo. That's when your playing gets louder. And then I'm going to decrescendo, which is when your playing gets softer. Functionally, you just want to raise the height of your fingertips. So low heights equal low dynamics. High heights with your fingertips equal high dynamics. I'm switching over to a different type of synth so that you can more easily hear the changes in my dynamics. The higher my dynamics, the more this synth patch will open up. Not all instruments have velocity sensitivity, but most of them nowadays do. It's worth checking out the velocity sensitivity in your hardware. Here in this Ableton Push, it has a lot of velocity sensitivity that needs to be changed in the settings, so if you're not really registering a lot of your quiet notes, it might be worth looking into seeing how sensitive your pads are. Next, to step it up another level, you're going to do both hands at the same time. These are often called double stops, and your hands are just playing identical stuff. Middle fingers play with middle fingers, index fingers play with index fingers. In this case, I've got my left hand playing on the synth pads and my right hand playing on the hi-hat post note pads. Make sure you're breathing throughout this whole thing. If you make a mistake, it's totally fine. Try to keep going, even if you stumble a little bit or fall off of the beat. In a performance setting, you can't just stop and be like, all right, everyone, reset. So try to go through, but if it's really unsalvageable, don't be afraid to stop, take a breath, and start over from the beginning. You should feel a discomfort. This is distinct from getting into flow. I've got some other videos on how to get into flow with your work. This is deliberate practice, which has a lot of overlap, but it is distinct. In this case, what you're doing is trying to find just outside your comfort zone, and you'll feel like a discomfort. It'll feel kind of awkward or weird or like not correct. And I like to say that's the feeling of your brain learning. Your brain is literally creating new neural pathways in your mind that connect all the way down to your fingertips. And these pathways, these motor sensory neurons and like sensory outer cells that you've got throughout your whole body, they're all connected. And so if you're playing something completely new, your brain has to rewire things and send resources in new ways, and that feels weird. So if you're feeling weird, that's good. That means you're practicing in a way that's building your skill. If it hurts, then stop. But if it's just outside that pocket, that's what we want. Now's where things get interesting. We're going to play with two hands at once. We're going to do the same one-handed pattern, the whole exercise, but now we're going to add in a downbeat with our right hand. The downbeat in this example, I'm going back and forth between a kick and a snare, but you can stick with just one pad if that's easier for you. It just sounds a lot cooler with the backbeat on it. This is going to take some practice. I recommend figuring out exactly where both fingers hit. So in my mind, I actually don't think of it as independently doing things very often. I think of it as one action. So it's both E and, both E and, both E and, the first pattern. Both E, both E, both E, So it's just kind of how my mind works for it. Next, you're going to add eighth notes. So now your right hand is playing the downbeat and the upbeat. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. In my case, I'm hitting the kick and the snare like I was before, and I'm adding a hi-hat on the upbeat. So this would be worth practicing on its own to get comfortable first. And then just like before, I like to think of them as united. So both my hands are doing one action. So figure out where both fingers hit on the downbeat, and then figure out where both fingers hit on the upbeat. If you're not sure how to set up a layered drum rack like this, I'm using Ableton drum rack, that's all that's going on here. You can check out some of my other videos where I break down how I like to align all of my drums and how I do some of my own sound design. So once you can play through the whole exercise without making any major errors in time, and you've tried it at different tempos, you can start to freestyle. That's what I did in the beginning of the video, and that's what I'm doing right here. You're taking the exercise that we did and just translating it into what your imagination can do, what your body can do, what your style can do. Change up the tempo, change up the rhythms, change up the grid, but you're using dynamics, going up and down, you're using different partials, you're playing out patterns, and you're doing these in combination with each hand. If this was helpful, don't forget to like and subscribe. If you want to check out more videos like this, check out the rest of the page. I've got a whole bunch of different breakdowns and exercises and live performances. And if deliberate practice is really up your alley, I've got a bunch of coaching resources on upwardaxe.com, which you can find in the link in the description, where I break down how to get into flow, how to get into the zone, how to build your creative skills, and just generally how to love creating and engaging in the creative process. So that's what I do. If that sounds helpful, feel free to reach out. Otherwise, I'll catch you in the next one.